name is Monica Johnson. I'm the director for the 988 and Behavioral Health Crisis Coordinating Office here at SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration.
What inspired you to get into the mental health field?
So 27 years ago, I kind of haphazardly, to be honest with you, I thought I was going to be maybe a news broadcaster. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I did what most college students do, change majors. I stumbled upon a psychology course. Long story short, I decided I think I like this. And my very first job, again, was literally 27 years ago. And it was in a children's psychiatric residential treatment facility. And I'll tell you this story really quick. On my very first day there, I was working with adolescent girls who had pretty severe mental health issues and were there for treatment. And we did a field trip. And after the field trip, we came back. I thought, this is the best thing ever. And on that first day, I had one of the young ladies in the cottage got into an altercation with another person, and a chair was thrown. It could have been said it was thrown at me, but I think it was just thrown in my direction. And after that incident, we reprocessed it as a group. And one of the girls, whose name I still remember to this day, and I could see her like it was yesterday, she said, "So you're leaving, right?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Nobody ever stays." I stayed in that job for 3 years and finished my graduate school while I was working there. And I've never looked back. I remember being at a crossroad of law school, graduate school, and I went down the psychology path. And here I am 27 years later.
Can you tell me about 988?
I am happy to. So 988 is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's important to know that it is not just for individuals that are having thoughts of suicide, but for any behavioral health crisis. And when I say behavioral health, I am thinking about mental health. So rather that's feeling anxiety, any type of emotional distress, feeling sad, feeling isolated, all the way to individuals having concern around maybe substance misuse or concern for someone else. So that is what we are. And we are 2 years into this. We were previously, it was a 10-digit suicide prevention lifeline. So there's a lot of history, a lot of work that predated to get us to where we are now. But 988, 2 years in, and that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that someone that is experiencing any type of, again, crisis related to behavioral health, that they have someone to call, whether that's via a call, whether that's a text, whether that's chat. Those are our modalities, 24/7, 365 days of the year. So on the other end of that is a network of 200 crisis contact centers across the country with trained crisis counselors that are waiting to help people that are in need of support, without judgment, but in need of support. Our goal is to make sure that we offer timely support for people that are experiencing a crisis in behavioral health. Having done this work for so long, or just in this field, it is often ridden with stigma. And people often, it's one of those things that you don't know you need it until you need it. And I think what 988 has done is change the conversation from being afraid to talk about this to making it to be about everyone and not just the people over there. I think now people understand that we're all a situation, an incident away, a pandemic away from feeling a little bit more stressed, feeling different, and wanting somebody that can help and just be a listening ear in many cases. So
I know for me, I live with bipolar disorder too, and it is tough, especially when I was first diagnosed with the stigma. But with 988, just having someone to support or talk to you is huge.
It is a really big deal. It helps us everybody have this conversation so people don't feel like ashamed or don't
Yeah.
feel like they don't know what to do. And just seeing this again over just the decades of working in this field, this really truly feels like, and I don't say this loosely, it really feels like the most transformative initiative that I've ever been a part of. It is changing the way we talk about behavioral health, is changing the way we help people get connected, because 988 is a three-pronged approach, right? So there is the having someone to talk to, and most people that reach out to 988 get what they need. So rather that's the support they were looking for, a resource that they needed, the issue was resolved for them for what made them contact us. But then the second part of that is we want to make sure people get the right response, right? So if someone is in need of a in-person response, we want to make sure that people aren't picking up the phone and dialing 911 because someone is experiencing a behavioral health crisis. We want to make sure that there are the right types of responses out there. It often looks like a mobile crisis team as an example that can bring the expertise and bring the right support for an individual that is in need of that in-person support. And then the third prong of this work is, well, what happens if somebody needs additional support beyond that, and making sure that the communities are building up services that are on par with what happens if you are experiencing a physical emergency. There are urgent care centers, there's an ER, there's all types of things out there. We want to make sure that we're building up a really robust continuum of care for individuals experiencing a crisis.
And you just talked about 988 just turning 2. What lessons have you learned during that time?
Well, a couple of things. I want to share some exciting things that happens with our 2-year anniversary. In our first 2 years, we've answered over 10 million text, chats, and calls altogether, which was a good thing to celebrate.
Yes.
That follows the investment of nearly $1.5 billion from the Biden-Harris administration to help us really get there. Of those 10 million, just to break that down, what's behind that number, nearly 1.7 million were texts. We've seen an increase in the utilization of text, which I'm not surprised about. I don't like to necessarily call and stay on the phone with people.
Yeah.
So I prefer to text even if I'm holding the phone, right? So I'm not surprised that we're seeing that. But that was the good thing to note. And then 1.2 million calls were answered by our partner at the Veterans Crisis Line. So when you call 988, you have an option to connect with the VCL by pressing 1 if you are a veteran and prefer to be connected to the Veterans Crisis Line. So we saw, again, 1.2 million calls answered by the VCL. And then in the last year, we've seen an overall, kind of to underscore my previous point, increase of 51% for text usage. Calls answered increased by 34%, and chats went down a little bit by 21%, but I think that's offset by the increase in text that we see. It's important that people know that we've spent a lot of time in those 2 years expanding access for certain populations. We want to make sure we're reaching people in the best ways that we can. So in addition to the VCL relationship that I talked about, we have an ability for individuals that would like to be connected with Spanish-speaking individuals, rather that's called chat or text. And so 20,000 Spanish language chats and texts, in addition to the 90,000 Spanish language calls, have been made available. So we're pretty proud of that. And then more than 475,000 LGBTQI plus young adults and youth have used our text calls and chats. And then lastly, this one is really important to me because of some work I did in the deaf community, but we launched video phone so that individuals that are deaf or hard of hearing and for whom American Sign Language is their preferred mode of communication, that is now an option. So very excited about that. So that's the kind of 2 years, kind of quick stats of what we were doing. Things that are lessons that came out of the 2 years is this is the biggest group project that I've ever seen happen. It takes literally an entire ecosystem to make this work. Every state, to some degree or another, at the same time, are now thinking about what does their behavioral health crisis system look like as a result of 988 being a catalyst. Because you cannot have a conversation about a crisis line or a lifeline and not talk about what happens before and what happens after the crisis happens. So we've seen NAMI tracks this. They track legislation that occurs across the country. And we've seen at least 50% of the states have some type of local law or investment appropriation into 988 locally or into some part of their crisis system and in some parts of their behavioral health system that impact this work. We know that there are many, many, many more people who do not know about 988 that we want to know. We've learned that there is no such thing as over communicating about what we're doing. We know that we have tapped into something that is truly a need, as evidenced by some of those data points that I shared. And I know just from going out, I spend a lot of time going around doing visits. I believe that you learn not by reading and just only the reading books and stuff. You cannot build policy that way. You got to go where the people are. So I spend a lot of time in states, tribal nations, and just communities across this country. And I'm losing count now, how many people have come up to me and said, 988 has saved my life. Like, I reached out and this was my experience. And those are all kinds of people. Those are people that work in this field that have said that to me. And those are people that, just everyday citizens that have said to me, yeah, that saved my life. Or they've said, I wish I knew about this, such as, a little bit earlier, because I would have used it. I would have shared it with someone that I know could have used it. So I think that's what we learned. I could go on and on about that. One other thing I'll say is it is really hard work that happens. We're talking about, in this crisis space. And I do want to acknowledge the level of just dedication and commitment that the crisis counselors that are receiving these contacts, that the over 10 million that are receiving these contacts have just done. I mean, just local heroes to me, and how they have just responded to this calling is what I would say.
So I was in San Francisco about a month ago, and I was walking on the Golden Gate Bridge, and there were a lot of signs for 988. Do you think the on-the-ground marketing has helped get the word out?
Yes, absolutely. We would not be where we are without the partnerships that are happening at the local levels. Absolutely. We're seeing those marketing efforts ourselves. I had brunch a week ago with some friends on a part of town that I never go on, maybe about 40 minutes away from me. And I was like, oh my God, there's 988 signs like on light pole, lamps and stuff. I was like, what is happening in a parking lot of a grocery store? So I still get excited when I see those things. But we're investing as well in those marketing efforts. We just began running our first round of our very first paid advertising nationwide. That will run, it started in June and it will go through November of this year. So those paid ads serve as an initial step forward as we continue to try to go bigger and get a more comprehensive campaign. Those particular ads that I talked about really focus on raising 988 awareness among certain populations,
Yeah.
so LGBTQI teens and young adults, mostly around 13 to 34, American Indian, Alaska Native teens and young adults, and Black teens. We followed the data. We've done some formative research to really help us be informed so that we can be, when we have limited funds to really focus on this area in terms of communications and marketing, that we're getting to where the people are. We also collaborate with our Lifeline administrator, Vibrant, on additional paid media advertising to just raise awareness. It's one of the most important things I feel like that we do, is the communication work around the awareness of 988. Again, while it's great that I can tell everybody that I pass in a grocery store or whatever
Right.
about 988, that's not going to be the best way to get this word out, right? So we have to continue to really work on making sure we get the word out. And then we do actually help with this too. We provide federal grants to states. They're called states, territories, and tribal nations. They're called our 988 capacity grants. And we even put funding in there to help with that local marketing and education that is happening. And there's a lot happening out there, a lot of really creative, innovative ways of which people have taken it on to really, really be reflective of their community. If the states know their states best and whatnot. And so it's been an interesting thing to see.
And September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Do you have any events planned for the month?
Yeah. So just a couple of just quick notes there. So first of all, we're just really grateful to the plethora of people that are involved in organizing and supporting suicide awareness. It goes beyond just the work that we do. But every month, especially in September, we honor and we remember those that were lost to suicide, whose memories continue to inspire our ongoing efforts to provide support, to continue to raise awareness, and really just ultimately foster hope throughout communities everywhere. Rather than hosting one event this year, the 988 team has decided to do something new, which we hope becomes a tradition. We are having 988 Day, and 988 Day is meant to support and amplify the other suicide prevention and mental health awareness events that are happening that, again, are beyond what our work is. We're really excited about that together. I think with that and some other initiatives that are happening, again, whether it's through our network administrator, other partners that we have, I think it'll be a very busy month.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit more about the 988 Day?
I'm so glad you asked. So 988 Day will be September 8th, 9/8. See what we did there? We're really hoping that this is a way to create positive buzz around 988 across the country. We really want to try to be as innovative and make this fun as much as possible. So again, raising awareness. We hope that this will be a tradition, that every year on September 8th, it will be National 988 Day. We're encouraging everybody to share what they're doing for 988 Day on social media using the hashtag 988 Day. We'll have social media walls, a social media wall collecting all of the activities. We've had a very overwhelming response that's been positive since we've really put this idea out. We did a workshop to kind of roll this out and give people some guidance on some things that may help generate the thinking here. But we had 2,500 people sign up for that activation workshop. That was last week, and I've been in a couple of other settings where we've talked about 988 Day, and people are really hungry to share the information, we're using some of our formative research too to help, help us be informed about what things we are sharing. So we've been giving all of our partners and anybody who will listen information to do this. So we've developed a 988-day toolkit. Everything that anybody would want to know about how to participate in 988 Day can go there to get items and ideas and other guidance that may be helpful as communities think about this. So it's going to be great. And I can share with you the link, but I think if you Google 988 Day Toolkit, it'll probably come up. So we're excited about it.
And you do so much to, help other people's mental health, but what do you do to help your own mental health?
That's a great question. It changes weekly. I used to have this like one answer thing that I would always do, but it changes. This is a complicated role. This is not an easy job. It's changing and doing transformation of this level is just not easy. And so taking care of our mental health is really important. And what I like to do mostly is just be okay with I'm turning off. I am going to find a cabin. I'm going to find a beach. I am going to find a lake. I am going to find something. Those are all happy places for me. I am going to find something. And even if it's 2 days or 7 days, whatever I can make happen, I've gotten much better at being intentional about making the time. I'm getting older, and the older I get, the more I realize if I don't do it, my body will make me do it. So I just saying yes to take the day. It does no good if I'm not here. Everything will keep going, but then why didn't I just take the day, right? And so that's what I do. I watch mindless TV too sometimes where I don't have to think. So that's kind of my selfish, like easy indulgence is what can I find to look at that I don't have to really use my brain. So there you go.
And what motivates you?
So this is going to probably sound cliche-ish, but it's true. I feel like I am walking and living a life that is grounded in purpose. And I think that many people go through life and may not have found what they believe this is why I'm here. I feel like if something happens to me and today is it, I found what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, that keeps me motivated. Every time I see somebody and they tell me that work that you are doing is changing people's lives, it's humbling, but it makes me feel like my life has meaning and that there is purpose in that. So that motivates me. There's no other thing I'd rather be doing right now than what I'm doing. I know that we're at the beginnings of a very, very long journey. This is transformation that will take decades. And I'm motivated by knowing that I'm okay not seeing the end of the last chapter or the last book. I'm okay knowing that what we're doing is laying some really strong foundation. We're laying the blueprint. So as people change, people come and go, that we are doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason for so many people. And that is overwhelming, but it is humbling and it gives me purpose. And that motivates me to continue to do this every day.
Well, I could hear the passion in your voice for helping others, and that's huge to, be there for other people.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, speaking of the future of 988, where do you want to see it, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
I want more people to know about it. Yeah. So I want to continue to see the systems build out. I want to see that. I feel like having been in this field for so long that we were always the behavioral health. Like we were always fighting for a seat at the table. Like we were always like either scrapping for funds or trying to make things work. I want to see a system that is further along and having that seat at the table, because I feel like now we're here, we got the seat. Now, how do we make the best of this moment? And so more people would know about 988, more people would be unprogrammed from dialing 911 when it's not necessary, so that they are getting the right support. I would like to see more communities that have built up ways to support individuals that are in need of behavioral health crisis support. A more cohesive system is important, reducing some of these silos, and that all people, no matter your age, no matter your race, your ethnicity, your sexual identification, your sexual orientation, you name it, whatever it is, that you get the right care that is culturally responsive, that feels equitable, and that feels accessible. That may feel like a big old vision type thing, but I feel like if we can get closer to that, then we're just those steps that we got to keep taking to really do this transformative work that won't happen in most of our lifetimes again. So that's what I hope for.
How can people reach out and learn more?
Well, of course, you can call 988 if you need it.
Yes.
Call or text. You can visit 988lifeline.org. You can follow 988 on social media accounts. You can follow SAMHSA.gov. You can go to SAMHSA.gov /find hyphen help 988. If you just put in 988 SAMHSA, if you just type in 988, it's going to get you to so many things. I like to tell people to Google, I do it all the time, Google 988 partner toolkit, 988 toolkit, and it's going to get you to where you can get a whole bunch of information. There's FAQs, there's downloadables, there's just a lot of stuff out there. We got forward-facing data. We try to be as transparent as possible. So that's where you can go to get more information.